Alright, hey y'all. How are all my silly beans doing? I hope everybody's doing real good today. Today we are going to be doing a real serious video here because this is about agar. And agar is really easy to make, but it is really nerve-wracking because you do have to be pretty sterile in the last half or in the pouring portion or whatever you want to call it. So it tends to get a little nerve-wracking during that part, but it's actually really easy and it's kind of calming once you are in the pouring and you pour so many cups. But I'm just going to go ahead and show you really quick what all you're going to need. So you will need, first of all, something to weigh that can weigh in grams, because most of the stuff that we're using will have to be weighed in grams. So you will need that. You'll need something to pour from and sterilize in. I like to use these because they have a pour spout, but you can use also just a regular mason jar. You can save jars from olives or anything that you use. I save all of my glasses that I get from the store, so like pickle jars, olive jars, some like sauce jars are glass. Those are actually really good. Like this one, I really like this sauce, so I have a bunch of these, but they're glass, and actually these lids can be put in the pressure cooker, so save your glass. They can be used for lots of different things, and those bottles, the sauce bottles like that, are actually really convenient because they're really easy to pour from. So let's see, we got the scales, told you about needing a container, and okay, so what we use is, the ingredient wise, is we're just going to be using some regular old potato flakes. These are just probably like Idaho brand, just plain unflavored potato flakes. You can use store brand, it doesn't matter. And this is my favorite brand of agar. This is telephone agar. I don't know why the light is acting all crazy. But yeah, so this is telephone agar. You can buy it on, I just get mine on Amazon. Probably cheaper if you can find it local. It's not real expensive on Amazon. I get like 5 of these packs for maybe $10, and each pack makes like 3, maybe 4 rounds of agar. So it's not bad. But you can get them at Asian specialty stores. And that's really the only other place I know that you can get them. And honey. I don't have the honey right here right now, but you can either use honey or karo syrup for the sugar part. And you will need a pot to boil everything in, and of course some water. So yeah, I think that's it. Just the scale, your dish to sterilize in and pour from, the agar, and you just want regular agar powder. You don't want it to have any kind of sugar or anything, just plain agar powder. You can also buy the sheets. It comes in sheets, but it's much more convenient to just buy the powder. And then your potato flakes, and then your honey or your karo. And I think that's about it for now. And then of course you'll need a piece of some aluminum foil to cover your dishes when you sterilize them. But other than that, I think that's just about it. And I'm actually going to be making a couple of different, I don't want to say different kinds of agar, because they're not different kinds of agar. It's all the same thing. But I'm going to be making one small batch with just agar and water in it. And I've actually only done this a couple of times, so, but it's supposed to help. Well, I'll tell you guys about that later, or I'll make another video on it. Can't get all in depth about it. But so yeah, I'm going to be making a couple of different kinds of agar in this video, and I'll explain the differences whenever I'm making them. So yeah, let's just get right on into it. I'll get everything set up and I will be right back. Okay, there's a couple of things I forgot to mention and stuff that you'll need. And you'll need either Petri dishes, or I use ketchup cups. So these are the ones I use. Any of you can just ask me for the link and I'll give it to you. I love using the ketchup cups because they can be thrown away. The downside is that these can't be put in the pressure cooker, so you can't do no pour methods with these. But you can't do no pour with regular Petri dishes either, because they can't be pressure cooked or autoclaved or whatever you want to call it, steam sterilized. So yeah, you'll need something that you want to make your agar dishes into. So for me, that's ketchup cups. And also, if you want, you don't have to color your agar, but if you want to, you can use food coloring. You can use just regular food coloring or gel food coloring. Either works really well. Sorry, my throat is killing me. So today I'm just going to be making some blue and some pink, but I like to add a little bit of red to my pink. So there's that. And then again, that's optional. You don't actually have to do that, but I do prefer colored agar. So there's that. And okay, so I've got my water boiling here, and I like to bring it up to a boil before I add everything in. And another thing you're going to need is a whisk to stir this, because you want to make sure you want to make sure that, where are my whisks at? There's as little chunks as possible. So it's nice to have a whisk, but of course a spoon or anything else will work. So while I'm waiting on this to come to a boil a little bit, and actually even this step is optional. You don't have to combine all the ingredients on the stove before you pressure cook it. You could just pour all of your ingredients into a mason jar and shake it up and loosen the lid, cover it with aluminum foil and sterilize it, and then pour it. But combining your ingredients on the stove first and bringing it all to a boil together makes it to where your agar is has a little more clarity. But I will say, with PDA, which is potato dextrose agar, it's never going to be clear. Like, you're never going to completely have 100% clear agar because of the potato starch and the potato flakes. Another thing I did want to tell you though is that instead of potato flakes, you can use like potato water. So you can cut up like a couple of potatoes and boil it, and then substitute your water for that water, and that will be your potato. But I prefer to just use the flakes. It's easier. Okay, so I think that's probably just about warm enough to where we can go ahead and start at least adding our ingredients. So the recipe that I go by is, for every cup of water that you use, and this is just regular faucet water, for every cup of water, you want to use about 4 grams of honey or karo and 8 grams of agar powder and 8 grams of potato flakes. And today I'm making 3 cups. So obviously my ingredients are tripled, but if you just make the 1 cup, which is what I started out making, it'll make about 25 to 30 ketchup cups. So it's quite a bit. I just like to pour a whole bunch at one time. So this recipe that I'm making right now will make a lot of cups. So yeah, it's just the 1 cup of water. You can use regular faucet water like I do, or you can use purified water, whatever you prefer. 1 cup of water, 4 grams of honey or karo, 8 grams of agar powder, and 8 grams of potato flakes. And another thing about these recipes is once you learn just like how to make the agar in general, you can play with the amounts of nutrients, and the only thing that really doesn't need to change much is the amount of agar that you use. You can fluctuate it a little bit if you find that you like your agar to be a little more firm or a little more soft. You can, fluctuate it a little bit for that, but for the most part, you mostly just want to play with the nutrients. So less nutrients will push rhizomorphic growth, and they say that if it's too nutrient rich, it can cause tomentose growth. So that's just something to play around with. I've pretty much always made the same recipe. I think I lowered my amount of potato flakes once. I think I started out with like 12 grams of, 6 grams. I don't know, I'm so confused. Yeah, I went from, I have no idea. I know I lowered my potato flakes though. I don't think I have my other notebook in arm's reach, but so yeah, there's a lot of stuff you could do. You don't have to make it the exact same way that I do. You don't have to add the exact same amount of potato flakes or honey or any of that stuff. This is just what I've found works for me. And it works for most people who grow multiple different types of mushrooms. So I just stick to what works and what's easy. Also, you can switch out the potato flakes for what is it called? Light malt extract. That's called LMEA. You can use just malt extract, EMA. And let's see, Peptone. You can use Peptone. This is another place where you could grind up a little bit of your grain, whatever you're using, and you can add that to it. So like I use popcorn to colonize, so I could grind up a little bit of popcorn and put it in here. You can add so many different things. There's just so many different things you can do. It's not something that you have to necessarily be strict about. This is just kind of a beginner's guide and an easy recipe to follow in the beginning, but I really encourage you all to just play with the recipe, try different things, and just have fun with it. The only part that is a little bit tedious is the pouring, but like I said, once you get used to it, it's kind of relaxing. You can just find a good spot, set up your still air box, and pour your heart out. Literally. Okay, so I think that's pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and add my agar. Get that stirred in and combined. Yeah. Get that all nice and stirred. And then once it really comes up to a boil, this is the just water and agar. So this is called water agar. And this is if you have a plate that is like exceptionally dirty, or you just have any samples that are really dirty and you just want to try to get a little bit of clean growth, you can make what's called water agar, and it's literally just water and agar. I have no nutrients in it. So the theory is that the mycelium can grow. While it grows slow, it still does grow, and it grows very like wispy and fluffy, and it's not very thick, so you can't take water agar to grain. But there's no nutrients for bacteria or mold or anything like that to grow off of. So while the mycelium can still grow very slowly and not very strong, it can still grow. So then you take a transfer off of this, and then you put it onto your nutrient-rich agar, and you should therefore have a clean sample because bacteria can't grow on water agar. I'll have to make a video on it and explain it better. I know that probably didn't make any sense, but I promise it does make sense and it does work. I've done this like one other time, and I've used it a few times because I made obviously quite a few plates. You don't want to use this often. You don't want to use just water agar often. You just want to use it in like dire situations where you have a really bacterial plate or just a really dirty sample that you want to try to clean up. You just want to kind of keep stirring, make sure everything's nice and incorporated, not lumpy. Turn it up a little bit. You don't really have to worry about like burning anything at this point, and we don't even really have to boil it for any certain amount of time. You just want to bring it together. Just want to make sure that it's all melted together and cohesive. And especially when you put in the potato flakes, because they do take a little bit of doing to get broke up and dissolved. Another thing you can do about that, which I don't care enough to do it, but you can grind the potato flakes and kind of grind them into a little bit more of a powder. And that also helps with the clarity and just the potato flakes absorbing better, but the flakes don't really bother me. Okay, so I think that's okay for that. So now I'm going to go ahead and pour a little bit into this and set my water agar to the side. Yeah, I can't hold that while I'm doing it. I don't want to, actually, I'm going to have to do it over the sink. Okay. I don't make many of those because, again, you don't use water agar often. But I do have a couple of dirty samples that I need to try to clean up. So, okay. So that right now is just the water and the agar. I know I've said that 1,000 times, but now we're going to add our honey and potato flakes. And right now you don't have to be sterile because we do still have to sterilize everything. So now, oh crap, the honey's going to be stuck in the cap. Can't man. Just adding our honey and potato flakes. Now, we just want to really make sure we stir this good and bring it together. Okay, so once this comes up to a boil, I'll show you guys what it looks like. And we will be right back. All right. So this is what we want. We just want it to be, kind of looks like bubbly snot, honestly. Just want it to be a nice boil. Get everything real nice and together and incorporated. And it is ready to go into our containers. Well, I'm sorry, not our containers, our sterilizing vessels. And I'm going to go ahead and move you guys over so I can show you how to get it ready to sterilize and add the color. Go ahead and turn that off. Yeah. All right, so I'm going to move you over. All right. Now we got everything all together. And I'm going to go ahead and pour them into their respective containers here. So, remove some of this stuff. It's also good to have with this kind of agar because it is not clear. Hold on, I gotta actually pay attention while I'm doing this because I need to only pour 100 milliliters in here. It's nice to have something to stir it though, because the potato flakes kind of do settle at the bottom sometimes. So you can use like a butter knife, something that can be cleaned with alcohol. I like to use these little, I bought like a spool of wire and I just kind of cut it because that can be put in the pressure cooker with like just like this, and I just leave it in there. That way I can also stir it afterwards because you don't want to put anything in it that isn't sterile after we sterilize it. Okay, so to color our agar, we just want to add just a little bit. So this is 100 mLs just right here. I'm going to make this one purple. So I'm just going to do like 1, 2 drops for now, and you can always add a little bit more if you need to. So there's that one. I'm going to do blue, and this is about 1 cup. So 1, 2, 3, 4 little drops. Like I said, you can also use like gel food coloring. Just make sure that the sugar content isn't a lot, because it can kind of throw off the amount of sugar that you want in there. Okay, so pink, I'm going to do 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to add a little bit of red. 1, 2. And then I forgot to cut something to stir that one, so right now I'm just going to use a knife. Just want to give that a good stir. So we have our purple, pretty, and pink, pinky red, reddish pink. And then after we do this, we just sterilize it. And then we pour oh yeah, that's really pretty. I love it. I love adding a little bit of red to my pink. Oh. Well, there you go, Kayla. Okay, so there's that one. Ooh, blue. Can't go wrong with blue. And oh, and another thing is that you probably will see me make a bunch of different colors of agar, but my psyllium tends to love blue food coloring and red food coloring. It loves blue food coloring the most. You'll notice if you make your dishes blue, by the time they're fully colonized, the pretty much all the color will be gone because the mycelium likes to eat the food coloring. And with the pink, you'll still see a little tinge of color, but it will mostly be gone. It's so weird how it prefers different colors, but I still make all kinds of different colors. I don't see differences in growth. It just kind of makes the color disappear in certain colors. I'm guessing it's what they use to make the blue and the red coloring. Okay, so now we sterilize. And I'm gonna switch you guys over to the pressure cooker, or the Instant Pot, whatever you want to call it. But you can do this on the stove, how I've showed you in my other videos, steaming it on the stove. But if you do it on the stove, you want to steam it for at least 45 minutes. You can go for about an hour. And in the Instant Pot, we're gonna do it on high for about 30 minutes. And then we'll be ready to pour. So I'm going to switch you guys over to the Instant Pot, and we will get this going. All right, now that we've got everything combined and colored and all that good stuff, and we've got everything covered with aluminum foil, we're going to go ahead and sterilize it. But I want to show you really quick, if you do use a jar, like I didn't even put a lid on this jar, I just put aluminum foil over it. It's fine as long as it's not really close to the top. But if you do decide to use a jar and use a lid, you want to make sure that you flip the lid upside down so that it can't get a seal. And you want to make sure that, again, oh crap, sorry. You want to make sure that your lid is flipped upside down so you don't get a seal. And you want to, again, make sure that it's not, like, tighten it and then kind of untighten it a little bit so it's loose and it can have gas exchange and it won't explode. And then cover that with aluminum foil also so water doesn't get in it. And we're going to run this for 40 minutes. I'm going to run it for 40 minutes. You can run it for 30, but if I can fit it. There we go. All right. He's down there. Okay. Yeah, that's it. All right. And close your cooker. And then we're going to hit pressure cook for 40 minutes. It's already set to 40 minutes. Make sure you turn off the keep warm. And yeah, let it run for 40 minutes. And while this is running, you want to clean your still air box, which is basically just a Rubbermaid container. I'll show you that here in just a little bit. And yeah, so just kind of clean your area up and get your area set up with your cups and everything you're going to need to pour, and then just relax for a few minutes while you're waiting on it to get done. I will be back with you guys after I get my still air box set up. Okay, so here is my still air box where I do pretty much all of my mycology work, agar work for the most part. But it's just a Rubbermaid container with 2 armholes cut into it, like literally. Still has the tag on it over there. This is just a trash bag that I cut and made it flat so that I could cover it when I'm not using it, to keep his hair out of it and him out of it also. But that is like a cooling rack that I use in the bottom as a grate to just keep stuff off the bottom of it. And every time I use it, I just clean it all out with alcohol, and then it's pretty much ready to use. I have a desk, but I just put it on a tray table, basically, and kind of sit it beside my desk so that I can sit on the bed and watch TV while I pour. So I kind of just set it up like this. So I just sit right there, and I have a kind of armchair pillow that I put behind me because it does take a while to pour. And these are super easy to make. This is actually the very first one that I made, so I've been using this for about 2 years now. And I do want to make another one, a bigger one, and I want to cut the armholes out better. It's easier if you heat the plastic, which I didn't know whenever I made this one. So, but you can use a torch or like a lighter or flame of some sort and heat the plastic while you're cutting it or right before you cut it, and it makes it easier. But this works for now. So I just cleaned it all out with alcohol very well, and then I put I spray everything down with 70% isopropyl alcohol. That's what this is. And you'll also need gloves for the pouring portion. So you'll need lots of 70% isopropyl alcohol, and you'll need gloves so you don't have to keep spraying your hands with alcohol. But basically, after I clean this out with alcohol, I spray everything thoroughly with alcohol before I put it in the box. And the ketchup cups are made for food and, human consumption, so they are already sterile in the package. So you just need to handle them with care. Only open them in your still air box, or if you're lucky enough to have a flow hood. But I mean, this was $10 and it works just as good. That's a lie, not just as good. That's another thing I was going to say. The success rate is not going to be 100% with a still air box like it would be with a flow hood or something of that nature. But you are going to have a lot better success and a lot better chances of succeeding with a still air box as opposed to just doing it in open air, especially when you're dealing with agar work or liquid cultures, anything like that. It's just better to be safe than sorry. You don't want to add another vector for contamination. So now that we've got our still air box clean and we have our 70% isopropyl alcohol, I will grab the agar out of the pressure cooker, and I will also spray those containers down with alcohol before I put them in the still air box. Because after you remove it from the pressure cooker, you have to go ahead and start trying to be as sterile as possible. I know that we have it covered with aluminum foil, and if you have anything, or if you're using anything to sterilize and pour like I am that has a really big opening at the top, you want to make sure that you keep that covered at all times. Like even when you're pouring, even in the still air box, it's best to try to keep it covered as much as possible. So I like to try to keep the aluminum foil on while I'm pouring, but I mean, sometimes it just doesn't happen, and that's still okay. But you just want to try your best to keep as many barriers between you and something getting contaminated as possible. So, all right, I'm going to go grab the stuff out of the pressure cooker and we can get started. Okay, so now I'm just going to show you all me pouring just a few, because we will be here forever if I do it all. So I went ahead and gave it a good stir, because when it comes out, it will look like layers, like it's separated. So you need to give it a pretty good stir once you get it in your still air box and with something that's sterilized. And once you give it a stir, it's ready to pour. Oh, another thing is you want to let it cool until it's comfortable to hold in your hand. Like, you don't want to pour it while it's super, super, super scalding hot. Like, you want to let it cool down for a little bit. It needs to be comfortable in your hand before you pour it. And you need to try to keep it as thin as possible. You just barely want to cover the bottom. That way, whenever you go to make transfers, they won't be super thick. And this is the way I do it because these cups are a little hard to get the lids on one-handed, so I just pour as many as I can, and then I go around and put the lids on them. And again, we're just covering the bottom. Like, see, there you go, just enough. Just a little layer in the bottom. You don't want them to be, see, that was too much. You want to keep your pour as shallow as possible. So yeah. And then we'll just go through and put the lids on them. And then I like to let them sit for at least 3 days, 3 to 7 preferably, because that way you'll see if there's any contamination. You can throw any out that do have contamination, and yeah, that way you know for sure the ones you're using are going to be clean. So 3 to 7 days after you make them, any contam will show, and you're good to go after that. I mean, technically you can just immediately use them, but in a still air box, it's not 100%. So you want to make sure that there's no contam in them before you knock them up with your spores or your spore syringe or whatever you decide to do with it. I'll do one more. I'm going to put the lids on, and then I will finish the rest off camera. Just going to set that down. You need to try to be as careful as possible because remember, we do have to be as sterile as we can at this point. And pop the lids on and just stack them up. I like to actually just grab a stack of lids and cover them as soon as possible, starting with the ones that are closest to me, closest to the armholes. That way we're going to have less time with an opened container, even though it is in a still air box. Just try to work as smart as possible. All right, pop these lids on, and that will be it. And anytime you have to take your hands out of your still air box, you want to, could you guys even see me pouring these? Oh my gosh, I forgot to look at the camera. But anyways, I'm going to show you how thick they're supposed to be. But anytime you take your hands out of your still air box, you want to spray them thoroughly with alcohol before you go back in. It's steamy in here because the agar is so hot. All right, so let me show you about how thick they need to be. Is this one dried yet? Yeah, okay. So you can see it's just barely a little layer in there, just enough to cover the bottom and a little bit more. And that's it. Let these sit for 3 to 7 days to show any contamination, and you're good to go. All right, here we go, guys. This is the fruits of our labor. Sorry, I'm recording this with my hand. My hands shake a little bit. So this made about, well, it did make 85 ketchup cups. But it would have made more because I made 10 of my bigger cups. I don't use these often at all. So honestly, it probably would have made anywhere from 100 to like 110 of my regular size cups, which are the 1.5 ounce sauce cups. So, yep, that's all there is to it. And again, this is the same recipe, but 3 different variations of it, I guess you would say. The clear is just water and agar. And the purple is my regular PDA recipe. But after I sterilized it, I added a little bit of hydrogen peroxide. That's also supposed to help and be like an antibacterial type of agar. That's actually the first time I've tried that, so I will let you guys know how those perform. But the blue, the rest, the blue and the pinkish reddish, kind of looks orange right there, but it's not, are just my regular PDA recipe. So it's all the same, just one is with a few less ingredients and one is with one extra ingredient. So there you go. Easy as that. And that also just goes to show how versatile these recipes are. Like, you can do pretty much whatever you want. Just try different stuff and see what you like. And coming next, we'll do some inoculation videos and all that good stuff. So I will see you silly beans in the next one. Bye.